All right, fantastic. Thank y'all so very much for coming out tonight. It is great to see so many people. Good evening, Charlotte. How y'all doing tonight? It's great to be here. My name is Wesley Harris. I'm the chair of the Mecklenburg County Democratic Party, and thank you. And we, along with the North Carolina Democratic Party, are so thrilled to welcome former Congressman Beto O'Rourke to the Queen City tonight. So thank you so much for coming. We are excited. Want to take a minute first to introduce all of our elected officials that are in the audience tonight. Some of my former colleagues in the state legislature. So first we got Representative Mary Belk. If you'll stand up, wave to everybody. Yeah. Representative Jordan Lopez, stand up. Great to see you. Yeah. And Representative Beth Helfrich. Thank you, coming up. And also, I know we don't have time for this, but if you are a candidate running for office, please just stand up so people can know where you are. Please talk to these people. Talk to these people before you leave tonight. Because they are fighting for everything that we hold dear. They are the folks that are going to be on the front lines for this. And so I want to thank you all again so much for coming out tonight. As I said, my name is Wesley Harris, and again, want to thank Congressman O'Rourke for coming. And I think this is actually going to be the first stop on his tour. And so it means so much. It means so much to come to North Carolina for that, and I think y'all need to know why it means so much to come to North Carolina, and simply how much power each single one of you in this room has for this upcoming election in 2026. North Carolina is going to be the most pivotal state in the entire country coming 2026. We not only have one of the most competitive state legislature, but we are going to have the most competitive U.S. Senate race in the entire country this year. The path to getting back control to the U.S. Senate goes through North Carolina, and everyone knows how important that is. And it starts right here in Mecklenburg County. Mecklenburg County is so critically important. Also, shout out to Susan Rodriguez-McDowell, our county commissioner, who just showed up. And if you want to know how important both Charlotte is and how North Carolina is, it goes back to we are different than any other swing state in this entire country. If you look at every swing state that we focus on, you look at Michigan, 43% of Michigan's entire population is Detroit. 60% of Georgia's entire population is Atlanta. 70% of Virginia's entire population is Richmond, Northern Virginia, and Norfolk. You add up our top 8 counties, all of our cities, all of our urban population, it's only 40% of the vote. What works in those other states does not work in North Carolina. We have to do something different. We have to build a true geographic coalition across this state, showing people that we are the party that believes in them. We are the party that will invest in them. We are the party that will provide them the opportunity to succeed regardless of where they were born or how they were born. And so if we are able to do this in North Carolina, not only will that transform our state and the millions of people inside of our state, that will set the template for how we win back Iowa, for how we win back Ohio, for how we win back Missouri, and how we actually form a governing coalition in this country to show people what it means to have a government that believes in them, to show people what it means to have a government that invests in them. And so I am so excited for the opportunity we have over these next 18 months. And thank you so much for joining. Since you're here and you're looking for how to get involved, focus on the Mecklenburg County Democratic Party. Come and volunteer with us. Come and knock on doors. Come and show people what is at stake over these next couple years, and we will use you, and you will find a better tomorrow. You will make a better tomorrow. If you are tired of what the party is doing, if you are sick of what the party is doing, if you're looking for a leader, look around this room. Y'all are the leaders. Come out and work with us, and we can make a new tomorrow. And so one of our true leaders that is really reshaping what the North Carolina Democratic Party is my good friend Anderson Clayton. And so I'm so honored to invite her to the stage. Thank you so much, Anderson. It's great to see you.
Y'all give it up for our county party chair, Wesley Harris, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Mecklenburg County. I know we've got Union County in the house, though. We've got Cleveland County in the house, though. We've got Iredell County in the house, though. So Mecklenburg, you're also joined by some of your rural neighbors and your friends. So make sure that you get to know somebody else tonight that you may not before you leave here. Thank you all so much for coming out on the first stop of our former congressman's tour. We are so excited to have him in the Tar Heel State. Y'all give him a round of applause. North Carolina, as we just heard our county chair mention, North Carolina has the chance in 2026 to do what we did in 2024, which was defy national elections and national odds. We had 6 statewide wins in North Carolina alone last year. We defeated an extreme governor with Mark Robinson and put Josh Stein in our governor's mansion. We made sure that we had a fighter for public schools in Mo Green going to our superintendent's office. And we were able to hold a supermajority break with the phenomenal Beth Helfrich sitting right here in front of me, everybody. Mecklenburg County did that. And when you're looking at what the future of our state looks like right now, let me tell y'all something. North Carolina, if we were not a gerrymandered state right now, Hakeem Jeffries would be Speaker of the U.S. House, folks. So what you've got on your chair, what you should have gotten when you came in, is a little pamphlet that talks about our Supreme Court election. Because while we've got a plan for 26, we've also got a plan for the future of this state. And it looks like taking back power from Republicans who have had it in North Carolina for far too long. And we did. And we achieved the first step in that last cycle by electing Supreme Court Justice Allison Riggs, everybody. An election that got known across the country as the test case for whether or not Republicans could steal an election at the local level. We were used as the petri dish to decide whether or not election denialism would make it into other states. And you all, every single person in this audience right now, kept the fate of democracy in your hands. And you know what we did, North Carolina? We won that election. Not just once, but we won it twice. And we did what we needed to do in 2024 to make sure that we were on the right track, to make sure that we repeal partisan and racial gerrymandering in the state of North Carolina. Which, if you do not know what gerrymandering is, it is where Republicans have taken our state and carved it all to hell to draw districts for themselves that they can win, that the people do not pick their politicians, but their politicians pick their voters. And that is unfair elections in a state. And our Supreme Court will decide whether or not we have a future as a Democratic Party nationally. And so what I tell y'all, 2026, we've got one more seat on our Supreme Court up with Justice Anita Earls' seat. And we are going to hold that Supreme Court seat, y'all. And then what we do in 2028 is we take 3 Republican-held seats on our Supreme Court and we repeal partisan and racial gerrymandering in North Carolina, giving us the opportunity to have free and fair elections again, and giving us power back at the national level. We have a plan in this state, and I need each and every single one of you to believe that the South is worth fighting for, that North Carolina is worth fighting for. A different future is possible when good people get involved with politics. And I know that each and every single one of you want to see good politics. So we're about to hear from somebody here tonight who knows good politics, who's about reaching every single person in his community, our former U.S. Congressman and Beto O'Rourke, everybody. Y'all give him a round of applause.
All right. Let's hear it for Anderson Clayton. Thank you all. Thank you. It makes me so happy to see all of you here tonight. Unless this is how you spend your Tuesday nights, normally in Charlotte, drinking beer, getting fired up. I see some people kind of waving themselves with these pamphlets. If you're warm, buy a beer. Drink responsibly, of course. Tip generously. We want to thank Lenny Boy Brewing for hosting us here today. Want to make sure that they do okay in this. We have been, so this is one of the first times we've done this outside of Texas, but we have been holding these town hall meetings all over the state, in the places you might expect to see me, like San Antonio or the Rio Grande Valley or outside of Dallas or Houston. Someone from the RGV, from the 956. But also Amarillo, in that liberal hotbed, Wichita Falls, in the north part of our state. We're going everywhere to listen to everyone, and it has been absolutely fantastic. We're listening to one another. And at this deeply divided, highly polarized moment, when we're so goddamn isolated by these devices that are always in front of our face, it's something special and really powerful to be with people. And not to divide along lines of geography, as we were just hearing earlier, or race, or religion, or even party affiliation. Just Americans coming together to decide that they are going to fight for this country. And I'll tell you what, I'm learning so much by listening to the people who are coming out. So the fact that you are here today, and I'm going to speak a little bit, but then I want to listen to you, means the world to all of us. We're going to take this and share this as we make our way across the country and around Texas. So big thanks to Wesley for helping to organize this and to bring us together, and the Mech Dems who are willing to take your volunteer hours and put them to use, as you just said. To Anderson Clayton, who's one of the most phenomenal leaders in the country, bar none, and certainly an outstanding state chair, an example to the rest of us. You all should be, and I know you are, proud. But I told you that we've been holding these town halls and that I've been learning a lot, and I want to share some of what I have picked up with you and then get your feedback. You tell me how it sounds. This is kind of my theory of the case based on listening to my fellow Americans. So first thing, and this is an assumption I'm going to make, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason that we're all here tonight is because we love this country. Am I right? And because we see that our country is in trouble, we want to do everything we can to save it. But because we understand that what we have done so far has failed to avert the trouble that we're in right now. And look, if we're honest, and I'm a lifelong Democrat, some of what we have been doing probably produced this trouble in the first place. So we seek something different. Born not out of the commerce and the science of our politics, but its common sense and its soul. Now, to be clear, the threats to this country are the greatest we have ever faced. The power and the strength of those who are attacking this country from within, from the highest positions of power and public trust, those are the greatest we've ever seen. And the greatness of this country, our Constitution, the rule of law, the very idea of self-government, has never been called into greater question. But if we want to overcome these challenges, it will not be enough to simply sound the alarm or to point to where the sky is falling in, nor will it be sufficient to only focus on those who are screwing us, and they are, those who are screwing up right now every fucking day in this country, nor those whose screw-ups got us here in the first place. And I'll tell you this also, the answer will not be found by spending more money or purchasing more media or creating more digital distance from that essential human connection that makes democracy possible in the first place. If you and I are serious about winning the political power necessary to save America, then you and I must be able to describe a new and better America, one that is worth saving. And to do so, I think we start at the foundation of this country, that which makes us what Lincoln called the last best hope of earth. But we have to go beyond that, and we have to be able to transcend the limitations that thus far have prevented us from fully realizing that hope, at least up until this point. We have got to find a way to come together and describe that America in rooms just like this one, face to face, person to person, human being to human being, here and all across the country. And that vision for that new and better America, it must be built on that foundation that I talked about that goes all the way to the beginning of this idea of America. Our very reason for being as a people and as a nation, this profoundly powerful concept that all of us are created equal and that all of us should expect to be treated equally under the law in this country. No one above it, no one below it. No tyrants, no kings, but a government of, by, and for the people. You know what I'm talking about, right? That speaks to a real democracy. Something that you have to agree does not exist in this country anymore. It has not existed in this country for a long time. Imagine this. This is part of the vision. A democracy where people, and not corporations, speech and not money, decide the outcomes of our elections, the policies that we are going to pursue, and the future that we are going to build together. Imagine our elected leaders are our elected public servants. They are focused on being accountable to those who put them into these positions of public trust in the first place. No longer, as Anderson said, able to choose their own voters in the gerrymanders that you all have suffered here in North Carolina and that we are about to face again in Texas. No longer setting themselves up for the rest of their natural lives in these offices, and no longer hidebound and trapped in these broken systems that don't work for any of us. This fealty to big dollar donors or even to the party hierarchy, whether it's Democrat or Republican, we want to value and prize independence of thought and independence of action so that they get things done for the people they purport to serve. And look, when they're running for election, what if, imagine this, it's no longer these canned, awful 30-second digital ads that are stamped out in some political factory in D.C. or somewhere else, but they're run on the ground and not on our screens, in person, just as we're talking here today. People talking to people, people listening to people, people working their differences out together so that ultimately they can work together to make this country better. That's the democracy that I'm talking about. So let us no longer talk about a democracy that we want to save, because that's fucking confusing to people who are like, what are you trying to save? This thing is not working for me right now. I don't have the same access as a billionaire who can spend $300 million in the last election. That's not a fucking democracy, that's an oligarchy. It's got to be people with people, not PACs against PACs. And so the work that we have to focus on is making sure that we get big money out of politics, that we reverse Citizens United, that we pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, that we end the process of gerrymandering, that we set term limits for every single political office. No one gets to be there for the rest of their lives. And we get politicians out of the business of redistricting and return that and all of the power back to the people. That's a democracy, am I right? That's what we're looking for. But there is no hope for this political democracy if we can't also establish an economic democracy. If folks can't get what they need from a government of the many, soon enough they're open to getting what they need from a government of the few, or even a government of just one. Let's listen to our fellow Americans when they tell us what they need, and then let's make sure that we deliver it. I'll tell you what that looks like to me after listening to folks in these town halls. It means a guarantee that your take-home pay is enough to actually live on. A guarantee that when you're sick, you can see a doctor no matter how much money you have in the bank account, and you can see a doctor even before you get sick, and even better, a guarantee that you have access to the healthy and fresh food, the safe drinking water, the time and space to exercise and move your body and spend time with your friends and family, the things that keep you from getting sick in the first place and make life worth living. And a guarantee that if you work for it, that you can be able to buy a home, because too many people today are working for it and just can't get it done. Look, we have the resources to deliver what people are asking for and what they need. In fact, I think it's the best hope we have of really establishing a democracy in America. We don't lack for the resources. We are the wealthiest, the most powerful country in the whole of human history. We don't lack the resources. We just lack the political will to accomplish it. Am I right, Danielle? And speaking of that power, and the fact that we are the most powerful nation on the planet today, imagine a different America. One that no longer turns its back on its friends and its allies, these hard-won alliances that have lasted more than 80 years from the end of World War II, won by the men and women from this communities and communities across America. And we work with these friends and allies to no longer start new wars, but to end the ones that are being waged right now. To work together on those issues that no one people, no one nation can solve by themselves. This international challenge of immigration, or climate change, or nuclear proliferation. We cannot do it by ourselves, so we need to be able to do it together. Imagine America sowing peace and reaping prosperity for those who are afflicted by war right now, but also for the American people. Imagine America that stands up for human rights and self-determination and really means it. Imagine an America that is no longer complicit in the bombing and the starving and the slaughtering of children and families in Gaza by the tens of thousands. An America that is no longer part of that, but instead uses this awesome power to convene the nations of that region, the nations of the planet, if that's what it takes, to establish a sovereign, independent state for the Palestinian people and to work for the safety and security of Palestinians and Israelis and everyone in that region. We can get that done. This is America, folks. And what if we brought that logic and that love of law and doing the right thing back home to this country? What if, imagine this, you no longer had to fear a masked, plainclothes federal agent without a badge or a warrant sweeping you up off the streets, illegally arresting you, illegally detaining you, illegally imprisoning you, illegally sending you to another country that you have never been before, perhaps to a gulag in El Salvador from which you will never emerge. Imagine a future where we recommit ourselves to the Constitution, the rights and protections contained within it, like due process that is missing from our country right now. And on immigration, imagine a Democratic Party, present company excluded, okay, that once it has power, starts to walk the talk. that rewrites our immigration laws in our own image, reflecting our own reality. Every single dreamer legalized here in this country. Every dreamer's parents legalized in this country. Every hardworking American putting food on our table, roof in our homes, doing the toughest jobs in the land, legal in America, contributing to the greatness of this country, even more so when they are U.S. citizens. And for those who want to come here and contribute their greatness to ours, we want to make sure that there is a safe and legal and orderly path for them to do that. That's a Republican, a Democrat, an independent value that we share across this country. Remember, we're all from somewhere else. Maybe your people crossed the Bering Strait 15,000 years ago. Maybe your people were brought as indentured servants. Maybe your people were brought in bondage in the hull of a ship from Africa. Maybe your people came from Ireland, as mine did in the 19th century, because to stay in that country was to starve to death in that country. But wherever you came from, today, we're all in the same boat. And we forget that we are people of many, e pluribus unum, at our own peril. Because think about this. Have you noticed that no matter how much they tighten the controls on the border, how many sweeps and arrests and purges that they pursue across this country, no matter how cruel they are, they keep doing this stuff in America because it's not about immigration. Because you and I agree, all of us agree, that we should be able to control our borders. All of us agree that we should know who's coming into this country. All of us agree that we should be able to protect one another from violent criminals wherever they're from America or from abroad. But all of us must know that immigrants are contributing far more to the success of this country than they ever take out. And that always has been the case, and it always will. Immigrants make us better by their very presence, and somebody needs to say it. I come from El Paso, Texas, one of the safest cities in America. It's one of the safest cities in America, not despite the fact that it is a city of immigrants connected to Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, but because it is a city of immigrants connected to Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. It's not about immigration. Just like these attacks on the very idea of diversity or equity and inclusion, it's not about DEI. Just as these attacks on trans folks is not about trans folks. Folks, they are trying to divide us and distract us. And what are they trying to distract us from? They just passed and signed into law a dog shit bill that transfers trillions of dollars with a T from working Americans to the wealthiest people on this planet, the 1% in this country. If I were robbing you blind, I'd want you to look the other way as well. And that's exactly what they're doing. And look, this isn't just Donald Trump. We got to be awake to this. For the last 5 decades, $50 trillion has been transferred from the poorest working Americans to the very wealthiest, especially the 1%. Folks, this is what is happening in this country. So I want you to imagine a future where we stop shoveling trillions of dollars of wealth to people who don't even know anymore how they can spend it, and instead use it by maybe returning some of that wealth to the people who created it in the first place, our fellow working Americans. Use some of those trillions to cure cancer or Alzheimer's or these diseases that we're currently dying of. Use some of those trillions to confront climate change before it's too late. Use some of those trillions to build the millions of homes that we're missing in America. Use some of those trillions to pay down the deficit and the national debt so we don't pass it on to our kids and grandkids. Let's use that money for the benefit of every single one of us. What do you all think? I think we can do that in this country. I think we can do that. Now, I want you to imagine one more thing. Imagine a Democratic Party that actually fights for these things, that doesn't submit, that doesn't roll over, that doesn't bend over, that doesn't tell us it's over before the fight has even begun. Imagine a Democratic Party in the spirit of Anderson Clayton that goes everywhere. You cannot be too red or too rural that we are going to write you off. You can't be too big or too blue that we are going to take you for granted. Everyone counts in this coalition. the broadest possible, the most united front America has ever seen. So we're here today to say, if you voted for Donald Trump in the last election, you're welcome in this room and in this coalition. Same if you voted for Kamala Harris. If you didn't vote at all, even better. We want to listen to you, learn from you, find out what it's going to take for you to cast that ballot in 2026. We have to have a national party that goes everywhere, not just to the swing states, but I'm talking Alabama, I'm talking Mississippi, I'm talking Texas too. And in North Carolina, the national party can't just parachute in when the polls are good and leave when they're not. They've got to be able to support Anderson so that we recruit the best possible candidates and we sweep the tables, run the legislature, and deliver for the people of North Carolina. That's the Democratic Party that I want to see. But for us to be able to realize this vision, it is going to take action from all of us. And it can mean so many different things. There's nothing too small, there's nothing too big. If there's a protest, join it. If there's not a protest, organize one and ask your friends and families to join it. This stuff, folks, is breaking through. You know, most Americans, especially younger Americans, they're not getting their news from broadcast TV or cable TV or the newspaper. It is TikTok and it is Instagram. They may not know that this president and his party are cutting millions of people off the only lifeline they have, which is Medicaid, invented by a Texan in 1965, by the way. They may not know that this administration is cutting 83,000 jobs in the VA, turning its back on those who put their life on the line for this country. They may not know that Social Security is on the chopping block. But when you show up at that protest, when you give voice to these challenges, it breaks through. They see it. It is changing public opinion right now. And if you're thinking about running for office, don't think about it anymore. Get into this election. Meet those voters who are going to decide the outcome of that contest at their doors, at these bars, wherever they're hanging out. You meet them there. And if you have time to volunteer, and I know you do because you're here right now, I want you to look at the MEC Dems and what Wesley is doing. Right now, we can be registering voters who are going to be ready to vote in this next election. We can be listening to voters and understand how to connect the dots to the candidates who will make their lives better. There are volunteers from the MEC Dems here. We want you to sign up with them right now. This vision, the vision that we come up with together, that action, that is the path forward. And let me do this. For anyone who doubts the possibility that we can come through, and I recognize that the days are very dark right now. We are right up on the edge. I just want you to think about and remember who we are, what we're made of, and where we come from. Más o menos 249 years ago, we defeated the biggest, most powerful empire on the planet to win our independence. It wasn't but 90 years later that we brought the Confederacy to its knees and defeated it and ended slavery in America. It wasn't but 80 years later that young men from this community and young men from my community landed on those beaches in 1944 in Normandy, France, to defeat fascism half a world away in order to save this democracy here at home. And a little bit closer to where we are, 1960. 4 in Greensboro catalyzed the civil rights movement. They inspired a 19-year-old John Lewis, who in 1965 would cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge and himself, for all of us, win voting rights and attempt to create that true democracy that we're talking about. And it wasn't too much long after that, in 1973, that 3 very young Texas women prevailed upon an all-male United States Supreme Court to win the Roe versus Wade decision to ensure women that can make their own decisions about their own body and their own future. Message to the world: do not fuck with the women of Texas, because they will overcome anything that you can bring to the table. And I'm sure that holds true for the women of North Carolina. Look, we are the heirs to all of this service, all of this struggle, all of this sacrifice that I just described and that has preceded us. What you and I do with this great inheritance is going to define us in the eyes of history, in our kids, in our grandkids, and it will determine what is possible for America. So, no pressure, folks, but we cannot be found wanting at this moment of truth. We have to decide that we're going to come through. Are you with me? Yeah. Are we together? Yeah. All right. Well, you have heard my dream, and now I want to hear yours. Cynthia Cano has another microphone, and if you raise your hand and get her attention, she'll bring it over to you. Again, we want to get as many people into the conversation. You don't have to agree with a single thing that I said. We just want to make sure that we get what's on your mind, work together, and save this country. All right, Ms. Cano.
All right, here we go. Here's first.
My understanding is that in North Carolina, our election boards are now majority Republican. How can we fight that?
So this is about this thing that I just talked about earlier. We are a democracy right now in name only. You know, I talked about John Lewis in 1965. He gave President LBJ the power he needed to pass the Voting Rights Act of that same year. It was reauthorized in 1975 thanks to my fellow Texan Barbara Jordan. It was authorized in the 1980s and the 1990s. Everything's fine, right? Until in 2013, the Roberts Court, in their infinite wisdom, in the decision Shelby versus Holder, says, we've had too much voting rights in this country. We can trust the politicians in power, and racism in America is a thing of the past. Ginsburg, in her scorching dissent, says that's like having an umbrella that has protected you from the rain, and because it has kept you dry, you decide that it's time to put it away. Well, in the 12 years since that decision, we have gotten absolutely soaked in North Carolina, in Texas, and the states especially of the former Confederacy. How are we going to overcome this? Whether it's the majority on the election board here, or the fact after we came so close to taking out Ted Cruz in 2018, the governor and the legislature in Texas changed the voting laws to make it that much harder. Closed down 750 polling places in the fastest growing state in the union, almost all of them in the fastest growing black and brown communities. The strictest voter ID laws, one ballot drop-off location per county in Texas during COVID, including a county like Harris that has 5 million people. Well, to overcome all of this, I say we go back to where we came from in the first place. I mentioned John Lewis. I mentioned the Greensboro Four. How about Septima Clark, who ran these citizenship schools throughout the Deep South to make sure that you could pass your literacy test, you could recite the North Carolina State Constitution, you could guess how many jelly beans were in the goddamn jar on the voter registrar's desk so that you would have the power to vote. This is not going to be easy. No one's going to hand it to us. It won't be the courts. It won't be those cowards in Congress. It sure as hell is not going to be President Trump. We are going to have to take power for ourselves. So sign up with these mech Dems, get people registered, turn them out, and let's replace that majority on the board with one that actually believes in a democracy. Thank you for asking.
Right behind you. That's right.
Yes.
Hi. Oh, that was kind of loud. Sorry, y'all. Hi, my name is Naya Levine, and I actually got the chance to meet you 6 years ago. 6 years ago, a lot was the same with me, but a lot was different. I was student body president at UNC Charlotte, and on April 30th, a student walked on campus with a semi-automatic weapon and shot and killed 2 students and harmed 4. So my question for you today is, how are we going to make our college campuses safer?
Thank you for asking this question. The honest answer to this question is I don't know. And the last thing I want to do is give you or anyone else here any false hope. I mean, in 2022, I was running for governor in the state of Texas. And on the ballot was, among other things, the most obscene abortion ban in America. There's no exception for rape or incest or the life of the mother. On the ballot was the fact that in the energy capital of the world, the geniuses in the Capitol could not keep the lights or the power or the heat running in February of 2021. 700 Texans died. Most of them froze to death in their homes. That was on the ballot. You know what else was on the ballot? In May of that year, an 18-year-old legally purchased 2 AR-15s, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, and walked into Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, and he took the lives of 19 beautiful children whose bodies could only be identified by the fucking shoes they were wearing because they were so disfigured by that high impact, high velocity round that absolutely tore up their faces and their bodies. Along with them died 2 of their heroic, noble, beautiful teachers. And yet, 9 million registered Texans who had every right and capacity to vote didn't cast a ballot. Now, I don't know the reason for each and every single one of them. Texas makes it harder than any other state to vote, makes it harder than any other state to register. But what I'm going to guess is there are a lot of people your age, a lot of people just like you who say, I saw Sandy Hook and they didn't do jack shit. I saw the next massacre and nothing happened. In Texas, we had the Santa Fe High School massacre in 2018. In my hometown of El Paso in 2019, 23 people blown away by a guy armed with a weapon designed and engineered for use on the field of battle because its only purpose is to kill human beings. And he slaughtered 23 of my people, saying he came to kill Mexicans and repel the invasion of Hispanics that he was warned about by Donald Trump, and nothing changed. And so you know what people say? And they're not dumb for coming to this conclusion. It's only logical. I vote, nothing changes. I don't vote, nothing changes. Why should I even get my hopes up? But if we know our history, and I know you do because you went to that fine institution, none of the things that distinguish this great country ever came to us easily. I mentioned the Civil War, this amazing, proud moment for our country. 300,000 Union dead to win the liberty of their fellow human beings and their fellow Americans. The Reconstruction that followed, the first African American ever elected to the position of sheriff anywhere in America was Fort Bend County in the great state of Texas. But it turned out to be just a mirage. That Reconstruction ended by 1890, and for 75 years, this country was everything but a democracy. The Jim Crow, the lynchings, the terror, the brutality. We cannot name all of those people who will go unsung forever, who labored in obscurity, who risked their lives, who lost their lives to bring us to the victories of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So I take their example and I say, you know what? We didn't get it done this year. We may not get it done next year. But if we fail to try, if we give up, we're not just giving up on ourselves, but our younger brothers and sisters, our sons and daughters, and the generations that follow. I believe in you. I believe in us. I believe if we keep working at this, we are going to get it done. And listen, the common sense solutions are right in front of us. And I have tested this with Republicans and Democrats and independents alike. Like, in Texas at least, why don't we raise the age to buy an AR-15 from 18 to 21? I don't think you should sell them at all, but I think we can agree on that much. Or a universal background check. We don't have that in America right now. There was a massacre in Midland, Odessa. AR-15, once again, 8 people dead. The person went into a gun shop, couldn't pass a background check, but because we don't have universal background checks in America, was able to buy that same weapon from a private seller and kill 8 innocent people. The guy who walked into that Walmart in El Paso and slaughtered 23, when he ordered his AK-47 and it came in, his mom called the police department in his hometown of Allen, Texas, and she said, I have no idea what my son wants with this weapon. I don't think he's okay. Can you help me? And the police responded, ma'am, I'm sorry. It's perfectly legal what he's doing. Good luck and goodbye. Within days, he would drive the 600 miles to El Paso and kill those people. What if we had a red flag law or an extreme risk protection order? So when the mom calls the police can come in using due process, remove that weapon from his care so he doesn't harm himself or anybody else. We have to keep advocating for these things, listening to people who feel differently than we do, and find the consensus. And I know this is a 4-letter word in America right now, but even the compromise to make something better than what we have right now. So please do not give in and do not give up. Keep the faith and keep up the fight. Thank you for saying that.
To your left, Okay.
Hi, my name is Natalie Parmenter. I'm the owner of a business called Primary Focus, the Parent's Guide to Elementary School. I used to be a teacher in CMS, and now I help parents through all the bumps in the road that can come with elementary school. Lately, my conversations in 2025 have not been as fun as they used to be. I have a lot of parents coming to me with children who receive special education, children who are English language learners, and on the local level in Charlotte, we have a very robust magnet program, a lot of which comes from grants from the federal government. This week, it was approved that the Department of Education employees, 1,400 of them, can be laid off. And there's $6 billion in grants that are being frozen. What the heck should I be telling parents when they come to me and they're freaking out about the incredible education system that we have being destroyed? How can I give them hope? How can we organize? And are things as catastrophic as they feel right now?
Yeah, I think the answer to your question is yes. They are as catastrophic as they are right now. They are as bad as you just described. And as you know, it's not just here in North Carolina, it's all across the country. And it's not just Donald Trump. Unconstitutionally demolishing a department set up by a separate co-equal branch of government, and don't hold your breath for the courts to ride to the rescue on this one. The Supreme Court has already told him he's allowed to do it. In states like mine, and you tell me if it's the same here with yours, we just passed this voucher scheme signed into law by our governor, which is going to defund the meagerly resourced schools that we have right now and send those resources to families who are already sending their kids to private schools. $10,000 a family. There's 254 counties in Texas. 150 of them don't even have a private school that you could send your kid to in the first place. I almost think this is by design to try to dumb down the people of America. I almost think this is by design to attack our public educators, who are my all-time heroes for the work that they do. We know that they put their lives on the line on a daily basis. In Texas, we lead the nation in school shootings. These teachers are working not one, but 2, 3 jobs just to make ends meet for the privilege of unlocking our kids' lifelong love of learning. And this is the respect that they get right now. The only way out is going to be through. And the only way through is by winning back that political power. And it is not too early to organize for 2026. That's why we are here right now. And my call to volunteer with the MEC Dems is not for show. It is for real. Unless we're willing to do this work, we will get the same thing in 2026 and 2028 and indefinitely going forward. And if we lose it, it is gone forever. So just know that we stand with you. We're fighting right alongside you. It is very bad. It is about to get worse, but we've got to bring us through. Thank you for being here.
All right, I see a lot of hands up. I will get to as many people as I can.
Thank you. I've actually been to El Paso a few times. I would say Gussie's Bakery's best tamales in all of the country. That all said, I'm not here to ask you a question, but more so remind people, we did break the supermajority. However, it only takes one Democrat. And in this case, House Bill 318 and Senate Bill 153, which would further to empower ICE to do its job and cooperate with sheriffs here in North Carolina. And right now, it's only one Democrat, and that Democrat is House Representative Carla Cunningham of North Mecklenburg County. And the fact that we have to hold people like her accountable and make sure the Democratic Party truly believes in the immigrant community and not to further criminalize them and give ICE more power here in the state of North Carolina.
Thank you for your comments. Listen, as I said earlier, I think every single one of us, without exception, agrees that we want to keep our fellow Americans safe. Everyone agrees that we want to have control of the U.S.-Mexico border. I live on the U.S.-Mexico border. We're raising our 3 kids on the U.S.-Mexico border. No one believes in that more than I do. We want to have a safe, orderly, legal system for people to come here. We want to know who's in this country in the first place. We can agree on all of that. But where the agreement starts to break down is when these masked, plainclothes thugs try to intimidate and scare people, when they unconstitutionally defy a co-equal branch's order not to deport these people on these planes into the largest prison on the planet in El Salvador, where everyone who goes in, no one comes out. And so if our local sheriffs and police officers are aiding and abetting this, not only are they contributing to the destruction of our Constitution and due process, but they are making our communities less safe. And I'll tell you who I know this from. The El Paso County Sheriff, who says, listen, if immigrant communities fear that I'm going to cooperate with ICE to unjustly and without due process detain, arrest, and deport them, then they're not going to come forward to report a crime or to serve as a witness or to testify in a trial. And we are demonstrably less safe when people fear local law enforcement. So let local law enforcement do their job, and let federal law enforcement do their job, but let them do it constitutionally and using due process. Thank you for the comment.
All my Navy veterans, okay, all veterans, okay, everybody, all the veterans, okay, veterans. I see this sign right back here, Project 2025. I want to know that we are going to have the Democratic Project 2029 and take back everything that piece of garbage has taken from us and continues to take from us. The Supreme Court just bent over today and told Trump, yeah, you can kill the Department of Education, and just like you said, a stupid American is a Republican American. I'm sorry. And for the Republican that's here spying on us, you take that back to your people and you let them know we are going to kick your ass next year.
Now, while I want to make sure that Republicans of good conscience and good faith feel welcomed here, and I really mean that, I agree with the gentleman's larger point, which is, I said this at the outset, it's not enough to decry and to blame the other side. I mean, they deserve it, right? And we can do as much of that as we want to. But we also have to describe, as they did in Project 2025, what our vision is for the future. People aren't going to be motivated just to vote against someone or something. I mean, maybe that works for some of the people some of the time. But we need to give all of the people an idea of what America will look like once we are in power. And I described that political democracy, that economic democracy, that adherence to the Constitution and rule of law, that ability for everyone to enjoy in the success and the wealth of America. You may have your own ideas, and I'm here to hear them right now, but ultimately, we must come together and share this vision. That is our path back to political power. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service to our country. Appreciate that.
Hi, Beto. Thank you for being here. I proudly canvassed for you in 2018 in Austin during your Senate race, so very glad you made a stop here in Charlotte. I have a two-part question for you. President Obama recently said Democrats need to get tough, but with Republicans controlling all levers of power on the federal government and our gerrymandered state, what does getting tough actually look like in practice? That's one. Two, messaging continues to be a weakness for Democrats. Republicans seem to stay relentlessly on message, think the border crisis, while Democrats often seem fragmented. What message should we be unifying around? Who is the messenger? Because frankly, people like Bernie, AOC, and I would argue you excite the base, yet the party often sidelines them.
I like that. I mean, I think it is absolutely clear from all of you here this evening and from everyone else that I've listened to around the country that we want to fight. There's some in our party, and you've heard them, who literally have said we need to roll over and play dead and let it pass. Chuck Schumer, in his infinite wisdom, said we just have to rope-a-dope Trump until his approval rating goes under 41%. Can you believe that he voted for that continuing resolution that gave Elon Musk and Donald Trump a blank check? That guy's in our own party with friends like these. Now, look at your governor, or the governor of Pennsylvania, or the governor of Maryland, or the governor of the great state of California. Those people have fight in their blood. And I guarantee you, if we get behind them and let them know that these are unusual times that demand unusual solutions, we are being attacked on a daily basis, and we need to fight back, or we are going to lose what we have forever, then I bet you that they're going to find the strength and the power they need to come through. You see what Trump is doing right now, absolutely defying the law with these executive orders, removing citizenship from people who are guaranteed citizenship since the 14th Amendment was confirmed and ratified in 1868. And you know what? The guy might really succeed. We need that level of creativity, just not so evil, but maybe working for the good of this country. So I encourage our governors and our local leaders and those who hold these positions of public trust and power to absolutely bend the limits of this power. Allow the courts to strike you down. Allow them to catch you while you're trying. Allow them to do everything they can to stop you, because there's a chance that they won't. And even better, you are going to inspire the people of this country to fight back as well. So let us all be the example to one another right now and make sure that we see this fight. Absolutely.
Right over here, Beto. Oh, are you finished? Sorry.
This messaging, you know, this blizzard of bizarre stuff that is absolutely just flying at us from Donald Trump on a daily basis. You know, he doesn't want us to think about the Epstein list anymore, right? So he's going to probably tell us he's going to invade Greenland again, or take Canada as the 51st state, or say something else to distract us or divide us. Those ads, they spent hundreds of millions, if not billions, trying to make you afraid of trans people in America. I think they comprise maybe 1% of the population. You think maybe we're looking at the wrong 1% of the population right now in America? So I think the message, when they try to bait us on immigration, when they try to bait us on DEI, when they try to bait us on trans, is to say, we're not taking the bait. We know that you're robbing us blind right now. We want the resources, the money, and the wealth back for the people of this country. Give them what they need. And when people see us fighting for them, and more importantly, delivering for them, they are going to vote for us in these elections and keep this democracy alive. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for coming to Charlotte. I came here to help you out a little bit. We talk about messaging in the Democratic Party. You made an epic fail, sir, because not one time did you mention black people until it came to John Lewis risking our lives, risking our health, killing ourselves to get to that ballot box. The number one mistake that the Democratic Party has done is you have completely alienated black voters to the point that when I go into my community and I talk to people about becoming a Democrat, I might as well just move on. What young people have told me, and specifically young black men, is that they don't have a solution for me. When they tell you they don't want to vote, they're not stupid. They see that the Democratic Party has never bought reparations as a platform. Despite, let me tell you something. Look at the statistics. Black women marched to those damn polls like it was no tomorrow. 90%. My sisters went with their big hats. They went sporting Kamala Harris's shirts. We talked to our friends, our neighbors, and our community. And the thank you that we get is that we're not even mentioned in these stump speeches until it's time to talk about what we did in the civil rights movement. We need a new day for black people. My hero, Mary McLeod Bethune, said something. She said, "What does democracy mean to me?" Well, let me tell you something. The things you feel right now, black people have felt for generations. The things that we see right now, we can write a book on the things that you stood there and talked about. But you know what you didn't do? What are you going to do for black people? Are you going to uplift reparations? Are you going to give us economic freedom in this country? Am I going to have to beg, borrow, and steal to have my children educated? And for these young black men, we need to create conditions that support safe communities. Let's get rid of the police by giving them jobs and some damn more than hope. I came here to tell you all that I am a Democrat today, but it won't be forever. You keep coming up here, talking this stuff, and not speaking to me so that I can deliver a message to my community. We got a problem. We have a serious problem. The messaging is not the problem. It's our own morality in this Democratic Party. And I know I've been long-winded, so I'm going to wrap it up with this. I believe in every person in this room. What I'm saying is not racist statements. I'm trying to help a party that is struggling with its own morality while attacking an immoral thing. When you go into these rooms, I don't give a damn if it's no black people there. You better start saying our name. Black people. We vote. We take a stand in the Democratic Party. 90% of black women march to those damn polls. 80% of black men went and did it. And if we're disenfranchised, it's because we see our grandparents doing something that doesn't mean a single thing for our younger generation. I went on a tangent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you came. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you came. And I think you can tell by the response, everyone was excited about what you had to say. And I think it's obvious, and history and facts will bear this out. If we had followed the lead of black women in 2016, if we had followed the lead of black women in 2024, we would not be in the place we find ourselves today. And you're right, there needs to be a better acknowledgement of that. And it cannot just be describing what we are going to do for black men or black women. I think it also has to acknowledge the leadership that exists right now that should be leading not just the Democratic Party, but this country. And we blew our shot on that in 2024. And the whole reason that I'm here is to make sure that I understand and learn how we're going to succeed going forward. And you, thank you very much, have just helped me to do that, okay? So thank you for being here. Thank you for that message. I want to tell you this, that I think one of the great sins of the Democratic Party, present company excluded, these are all amazing people right here, but one of the great sins is that, at least in my home state of Texas, we have completely written people off based on their race and based on their geography. So there are counties so rural and so white in the state of Texas that Democrats have long feared to tread. And that means Republicans don't even have to bother to show up, and those folks are functionally going unrepresented. By that same token, and this is the great sin I was talking about, Democrats, present company excluded, have so taken for granted the votes of black women and black men that they have stopped showing up to listen to them, to learn from them, and to fight right alongside them. It should then be no surprise that we ended up with the result that we faced in November of 2024. What I'm trying to do, and I will do an even better job going forward because of you, is to describe a vision that includes all of us. I mean, some feel that a Democrat is for this interest group or this interest group. And you saw Donald Trump in 2024 almost win the election simply on that basis. It was unfair, it was divisive, it was distracting from what he really wanted to do, which was Project 2025. But there was enough truth in it that people believed it. So we've got to show up for everyone, everywhere. And we've got to follow the lead of people who have shown us the right path in the past and will show us the right path in the future. Thank you for being here, and thank you for what you said. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Hey, Beto. My name is Andrew. I'm from Onslow County, which is a rural county here in the state. But next year in the fall, I'll be a senior at Harvard College. And my concern is that the Trump administration has been repeatedly attacking my university. I have friends who are afraid to leave the country, fearing that they're not going to be able to get back in. I had friends who were crying because they didn't want to leave the classroom or walk back to their dorm rooms because they thought they were going to be picked up by ICE. They claim that we're anti-Semitic, that we push DEI. What do you have to say for protecting both public and private universities from undue government interference?
Yeah. This is where we need to see more of a fight. And actually, so far, I've really loved the fight that I've seen from Harvard. You've seen some of these other big universities with massive endowments completely roll over to the Trump administration. Allow the Trump administration literally to direct and to control their institutions, which should be independent, which should prioritize free speech, which should be the best of who we are in America, and we're about to lose that right now. And even worse, if I could, is the fact that he's taking away billions of dollars of research funding. What are they researching? They're researching the cures to cancer. They're researching the cures to Alzheimer's. They're researching the cures to Parkinson's. We were at a town hall in Humble, Texas, and a woman got up and she said, I'm 72 years old, and I'm the primary caretaker for my 77-year-old husband who has Parkinson's. And because this guy in office is cutting Medicaid right now, our best bet is that I outlive him, because should I die before he does, there will be no safety net to take care of him. And through tears, she's saying, and the very research that is being conducted to help save his life, and if not his, then the next generation of patients with Parkinson's is being cut by Donald Trump at Harvard University right now. For what reason? For wokeness? For DEI? For what? Explain how cancer and Alzheimer and Parkinson's have any role in that. And again, the courts are not going to be our friends on this. It has to be the people of America stepping up, standing behind Harvard, and Harvard inspiring other universities who are going to come under similar attack right here in North Carolina or my home state of Texas. So you too, keep the faith and keep up the fight. Thank you.
Beto, we're in the back. Over here.
Hi, my name is Wes Caudle. I live in Iredell County, but I'm from Yadkin County. In the last election cycle, I tried to volunteer with the Democratic Party as an independent voter, and I was actually contacted and interviewed by the same, I can't remember his title, but he was working for the North Carolina Democratic Party. He had an office in Raleigh. He interviewed me 3 times, and each time was as though it was a new interview. He didn't remember interviewing me the first time. So this goes to the Democrats in general, because I am now a Democrat. I realize that in order to get anything done, and especially if I want to run for office, which I intend on announcing for the 10th Congressional District in a couple of weeks, is at what point do we stop writing off people that are not Democrats and welcome them into the effort to try to elect Democrats?
Yeah. I love that.
Because as long as we treat people, or we look at people as, if you don't have our title, then you're not going to help us, and don't bring them in and use them to speak to and connect with the rural voters that are staunchly conservative, we're going to struggle. How many votes do we leave on the table every election when we don't talk to the person that doesn't understand us, don't make that connection? And when do we start supporting the rural counties? You've already addressed this. Well, we can't keep writing it off. But Anderson, Wesley, I met both of you in Elkin. I helped organize the rally there in Elkin back before the election. When do we go out and invest in the counties that we can't win, but we can use the votes from?
Yeah. I think the party leadership here is in total agreement. We just literally, mathematically, if nothing else, can't afford to write anybody off. I mean, we cannot be in the business of excommunication. We have to be in the business of conversion, of bringing people in, as it seems like we have done with you. We can't be in the business of judging people for who they voted for last time, or if they think a little bit differently than we do on something, or if they don't understand the progress that this country is making. Let's listen to them, understand their point of view. Maybe have a conversation, maybe come to some kind of common ground or consensus. And we cannot afford to cancel people who do not share every single one of our values. We have to have the biggest tent, the broadest coalition, the most united front that the world has ever seen. And Wesley said it earlier, the majority of this population doesn't live in big cities in North Carolina. And so we're missing the voters if we don't go out there and show them the respect that you're demanding right now. Good luck on your run, and thank you for being here today. Appreciate it.
Right here, a little bit to your right. Here we go. So I have time for 3 more questions.
Mr. O'Rourke, I really appreciate you being here tonight, and I really appreciate your commenting, maybe not directly, on the state's resolution regarding Palestine and the Israeli government's continued destruction of that area. I'm a 22-year retired United States Marine. I spent my career shortly after Vietnam serving proudly in service of this country. But recently, the last 6-8 months, I've become incredibly ashamed of what we've become. And I want to feel proud to be American again. I can't tell you how much. My question kind of involves something you've kind of addressed or touched on before, and that is my biggest fear, my biggest concern about the current administration is Stephen Miller's Gestapo squads pulling people off the street with no identification, no warrant, just taking them off the street. And what my fear is that this is going to become normalized. And that cannot happen. And so I was wondering if you might address how we might be able to prevent or mitigate this normalization of the Stasi coming into our communities.
You know, in that, what Trump called that big, beautiful bill, in addition to the trillions of dollars of transfer of American wealth from people in this room to the 1%, there is something like a tenfold increase in what we're going to be spending in ICE. These new detention camps, the Alligator Alcatraz in Florida is just but one of the many that we are about to see. And those who study fascism and dictatorships and tyranny, they can connect the dots for us. As they do in the 1930s post-Weimar Republic in Germany, as they did in post-Lenin Stalinist Russia, they build these archipelagos of concentration camps around this country. At first, it's going to be for the immigrants, the undocumented immigrants, the gang members, the people who have tattoos on their throats. If you've got a tattoo on your throat, you must be a gangster, right? We don't even have to give you due process. We're just going to put you on the plane and send you to El Salvador. Then they're going to come for the undocumented immigrants who came in here through humanitarian parole, legally fixed their status in this country. They're already doing that. Then, and listen, Trump has already spelled all this out in the light of day. They're going to come for your kids who were born in this country if you happen to be born somewhere else. He issued an executive order on the first day of his presidency to end birthright citizenship. Those are the people who are going to be in the camps. And then he said this on a live mic in the Oval Office: I'm going to come for the homegrown ones next. They've already swept up and deported U.S.-born kids with stage 4 cancer without their medications to other countries. You know, when you're too unpatriotic by their definition, when you're too much of a Democrat, when you're not enough of a MAGA, you're going to end up in those camps unless we do something about it. Now, let me give you some hope. It may be cold comfort. It's what we have right now in addition to organizing. Abraham Lincoln, I think the greatest man that ever lived in this country. He said this before he was president, and I think it's goddamn powerful. He said, you have the presidency, you have the legislatures, you have the courts, but more powerful than all of that and all of them is all of us. Public sentiment, Lincoln said, is everything. With it, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. What do I mean by that? John Lewis in 1965, which we talked about, it wasn't an election year. President Johnson had told Dr. King and Andrew Young the year before, look, I'd love to pass voting rights. I used everything I had on civil rights in '64. I just don't have the power. King told Young when they left the White House, let's go out there and get this guy some power. The power came from the people in the streets. In 2018, you probably remember this, in the first Trump administration, there was this policy known as family separation. You're leaving El Salvador or Honduras or Guatemala because to stay in El Salvador or Honduras or Guatemala meant the death of your child. And so you scooped her up in your arms and you traveled 2,000 miles, most of it by foot, sometimes atop a train known as La Bestia or the Beast, to come to this country to seek salvation and refuge, a country comprised of refugees and immigrants from the world over. And just as you had found salvation, they literally took that baby from your arms, deported you back to Central America, put that kid in foster care in the U.S., and in some cases, God only knows literally where that child is right now. Still, 8 years later, what did we do about it? We stood up. We took to the courthouse steps. We protested. In Tornillo, Texas, just outside of El Paso, the Trump administration had built this concentration camp for all of the kids who'd been taken from their parents. I think more than 1,000 of them were there. So we convened on Father's Day in 2018 in little tiny Tornillo, Texas, that is so hard to get to. But more than 1,000 of our fellow Americans showed up to bear witness, to testify to their fellow Americans what was being done in their name, and they changed public sentiment in the process. Within 3 days, because of all the public protests, but especially Tornillo, the Trump administration rescinded family separation. We know that we can move the mightiest mountains, the very people in the highest positions of power, if we will come together. This guy is paying attention to the polls. He's paying attention to the stock market. He's paying attention to the numbers that describe how he's doing and whether or not he'll be able to stay in power. We have to pay attention to them as well, and we have to change them in our favor. And we do that by coming together, by protesting, by standing up and being counted at this moment of truth. Thank you for your question, and thank you for your service to our country.
To your left. Right here.
Hi, my name's Megan Sanford. I'm a school librarian in Charlotte, and thanks. I have two main questions. I'm sorry, I'll make them as short as possible, I swear, and everybody's trying to ask questions too. So first is, as a school librarian right now, specifically in North Carolina, people are coming for our jobs. They're coming for our ability to be able to recommend diverse books to kids. Right now, we have a law in place similar to many other states that's Parental Bill of Rights that basically takes away the rights from people and basically says only straight couples are going to be in kids' books that are in classrooms and are going to be talked about. I have kids. Right now, I work as a librarian, and people are trying to come for librarians. There's legislation right now in North Carolina that's literally trying to make it a misdemeanor to get us jail time if something is found to be an inappropriate book in our schools. And right now, people are trying to come for funding for the IMLS. These are all things that affect me, and these are all things I keep trying to inspire my colleagues, inspire other librarians, and inspire kids who care about their rights. How do I possibly tell them it's worth it? Keep going. We are doing an important job, and you are no less for doing your job. 2, how in the world, I'm queer, clearly queer, but how, I'm also the GSA advisor, so Gay Straight Alliance at my school. I work with so many amazing, wonderful queer kids, and every time these anti-trans laws happen, I feel like my heart's breaking 5 times over because all I can think about is my kids. How do I tell my kids that somehow it's going to be okay, that you don't have to be scared, that people can't take away your health care and your mental health forever, that it's going to be okay, you have to keep fighting, don't be scared? How do I do that right now?
Thank you for being here, and thank you for saying that. And look, you know, we talked about some big challenges, right? Just in the world right now. Climate change, nuclear proliferation, these wars that are being waged and killing people, the slaughter of innocents in Gaza. Who would have thought that public enemy number 1 was going to be the librarian in America right now? And that the biggest threat we really faced were these books in your possession, the pornography that you're trying to give to these kids all over the country. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up, but they're making this stuff up, and some people are actually believing it. It's like part of what we were talking about earlier, maybe this is by design, the attacks on universities, the attacks on the Department of Education, the attacks on local schools, the attacks on libraries. They don't want Americans to really live in this democracy. I mean, there's some great Thomas Jefferson line about, a well-educated public is, the best defense against tyranny. We're losing the best defense against tyranny while we have the biggest tyrant ever holding the largest position of public trust in this country. And look, on your question about trans folks and trans kids in particular, I mean, find somebody who is in a tougher place, more vulnerable right now. The most powerful man on the planet has put a target on your back, right? And the same way they're doing this with immigrants and with others, they want to pick someone who is not broadly popular with the public, assuming that we're not going to stand with them. I mean, you know that line from the end of the Third Reich? First, they came for the communists, and because I was not a communist, I didn't say anything. Then they came for the trade unions, and because I wasn't a trade union member, I didn't say anything. And then they came for the Jews, and because I was not a Jew, I didn't say anything. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to say a single word. So I say, stand with the immigrant. Stand with those who are promoting DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in our life, in our businesses, in our schools, and stand with trans Americans across this country. That is the best defense right now. Thank you for being here.
This is our last question up front. I'm on the floor in front of you right here, Beto. Sorry, right here. It's our last question.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you back there for what you said. This country is being held up by black women every single day. And if you all haven't knocked a door in eastern North Carolina, in Rocky Mount, in Vance County, in Franklin County, in Nash County, you ought to go there. Because if you go there and you knock doors and you tell them, I need your vote 2 months before the election, and you never show up again, they're not going to trust you. So thank you for everything that you've said. Thank you as an educator in the room for everything that you do. I know Beto O'Rourke not as Congressman Beto O'Rourke, but as Professor Beto O'Rourke, because he's decided that public education has been powerful for a long time, and he taught a class at Texas State, which I'm a proud graduate. Go Bobcats. I want to talk about down ballot races. People do not, thank you. People do not show up and stay for the opener and then leave before the main act of a concert. So if we can get people to turn out to vote in their city council races, in their commissioner races, in their state house races, it is super important. What you did when you ran for governor in 2022 was you increased turnout in extremely rural areas. You're not going to be able to talk to Kamala Harris. You're not going to be able to maybe talk to your governor candidate. But do you know who you can talk to? Beth Helfrich, who is in one of the most competitive House races that we have. And I've run city council races and state house races, and it is nearly impossible to get volunteers at the same rate that they do for president. So if everybody in this room knocks some doors, we'd be in a much better position. So Beto, how can we invest in our local races? How can we start looking up every single one of you, who's your city council member, who's your state house member, who's your state senate member, and how can we increase turnout? Because if they don't trust the government at the national level, they better trust it at the state level when you can actually talk to them.
I love that. Yep. Man, all of that. What's that? All of that is so true. And I've seen it as a city council member. I've seen it as a member of Congress. I saw it as a statewide candidate in that Senate race in 2018. We generated more votes than the state of Texas had ever seen. We won the 5 major urban areas and their surrounding counties for the first time for a Democrat since LBJ did it in 1964. 2 new members of Congress, both Democrats, defeated incumbent, entrenched, well-funded Republicans, Colin Allred in North Texas, Lizzie Panel Fletcher in the southeast part of the state. We talked about black women earlier. In Harris County, home to Houston, Texas, the most diverse city in America, in 2018, in that election, 19 black women won election to judicial positions, literally changing the face of criminal justice in the biggest city in the state of Texas. So we saw what happened when we contested at every place on the ballot. Not only did we help ballots and votes flowing down from the Senate race, but they came right back up to us at the top of the ticket. And as Danielle said, it wasn't just in the big cities and the obvious places. It was in the most remote, rural counties in the state of Texas. So the question is, how do we build on this knowledge and the experience that we've had in Texas and in North Carolina? We got to get behind these local leaders who, as Danielle said, are already so accessible. You can probably pick up their phone. Beth, you're going to share your cell phone in just a second. Her T-shirt says, "Hi, I'm Beth," in case you can't see her from where you are right now. But these local leaders holding no holds barred, all comers welcome town hall meetings where they're actually accountable to their constituents. It builds trust and faith and a reason to vote for them for re-election again going forward. Having great leaders like our state chair and our county chair actually recruiting candidates in every single place, including those we're not supposed to win, because we're never going to win them if we don't start trying. And maybe it's not in 2024 that we come through, but maybe we do punch through in 2026 or 2028. We have got to fight on every front for everyone, everywhere. That is the only way we're going to come through for North Carolina, for Texas, and for the United States of America. Thank you for that question. Thank you all for coming out here tonight. Thank you to Lenny Boy for hosting us. Thank you to our great chairs. We'll see you soon, North Carolina. Thank you, Charlotte. Adios.